All right. Hello, members. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning from wherever you're watching from. I welcome you to this session of Reflections that Inspire. This is a leaders forum where we meet twice a month, the first Saturday of the month and the third Saturday of the month. We connect here as leaders who are ready to learn, to improve their lives, to improve others' lives, and to do the best that we can do with whatever we have. So once more, heartedly, I welcome all of you. My name is Dr. Jane Amisi, and we are here today again for another round of new experience, of new learning. We've been doing this for, I think this is now the third year going round, and we've learned so much. Personally, I've learned so much. I've improved so much. I count myself to be one of the lucky people that I've learned something new. I've gained something new from the COVID season. We started this forum. I think that was 2020. I just began these leadership talks and coaching, and I was wondering, I've just begun, and then COVID comes in and everything is shut. So I'm doomed. Then I started slowly this habit of talking online, and here we are today. It's been going, this is the third year. I count that this is something that I've learned through the hard times. I've gained something that I believe is meaningful, is useful, and is adding value to all of us. So without taking much time, we've been going through the Saturdays with a theme, navigating the leadership space. Navigating the leadership space. And we've discussed quite a number of topics. We've gone through, our first series of topics was understanding your value. And today we are into another very interesting topic. That is the value of character in today's leadership space. The value of character in today's leadership space. And this topic I found very interesting. Looking around in most of the newspapers you see, most of the headlines you see, even most of the leadership experiences you have or gain within your workplaces. I really do not have to explain a lot about it, but they've got a lot to be admired, especially when you're interacting with your colleagues, when people talk about success today, when people talk about getting promotions or even relating just the general work environment. There is a lot to be desired in the characters, in the way we act and react with each other. And that is why this topic becomes key important to us. Character is whom we are. Our character is what we show daily. I was reading a book by Marshall Goldsmith. He's a very renowned coach and speaker. And at one point, part of the book, he says, our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove how smart or right we are. Our portion and mission in life is to make a difference. To make a difference in this world, and especially in the business environment, our career, even workplaces, is such a challenging task. But whom do we come to be? Whom do we come to be known as? Today, we've got our guest speaker, a lady that I've known for so many years. But I realize also that when you get to know someone and when you connect, there is a time you just know someone, and there is a difference when you know you've connected with someone. There seems to be a purpose. There seems to be a link that you enjoy, or some purpose that both of you enjoy. And my friend today, Joyce Kiplimo, we met with Joyce, I think, is almost 10 years, but in between there, we didn't catch up. So we didn't connect so much because of differences of work. But at some point, again, we've connected. And here we are today. Joyce is our guest speaker. I'm inviting her. Joyce will give her introduction and tell us a little more about herself before she delves into the topic. Joyce, you're welcome to Leadership Forum, Reflections that Inspire. We are looking forward to be inspired. We are looking forward to be empowered. And we are looking forward to grow together. You're welcome. Karibu sana.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Jane, and what an introduction. Yeah, you are also an inspiration. if I may say. Yeah, just being able to set up this forum in itself is inspiration. So well done, Jen. So as Jen mentioned, I am Joyce Kiplimo. I wear many hats. I call myself a mother. I'm a mother of 3 lovely children, 2 teenagers. I am a wife and a professional woman. I am currently a director of awards and partnerships for Save the Children International, and I'm based in Ethiopia. So it means I'm not home most of the time. I'm there, and I'll speak a bit to that later and what that means for my leadership journey. In addition to that, I love to call myself an adventurous fitness enthusiast. And above all, I say I'm a child of God. It's the source of my identity, my true north, so to say. When Jen asked me to speak about this topic, I just wondered, where does one begin with such a huge topic, value of character in leadership space? It's a very wide topic, but one that I would say is really foundational and fundamental for any great leader to be successful. I would like to start off our conversation tonight by just reflecting on my own story, my own leadership story, where I have come from, and how that has played out in shaping my character and my leadership journey. I can see, some people in the call who know me and know my background, but I just want to reflect on it because it brings very great memories for me in many ways. At a very young age, when I was 9 years old, my parents, I say, shipped me off to a boarding school that was way, far away from home. And I would get to see them during the holidays. I don't know, for some of you who are mothers here, picture your 9-year-old girl or daughter away in a boarding school, and you have to just see them over the holiday break. How does that feel like? For the organization that I work in, for Save the Children, we call that a child safeguarding issue. Why at 9 years? And for many, this would be highly criticized, I would say. And you'd be probably labeled a bad mother or bad parenting to have sent your daughter or your son to a boarding school at 9 years of age. This was a boarding school where, because there was a shortage of water, we would have to go and fetch the water in the rivers. Would have to wake up so early in the morning. I remember, it used to be like 5 a.m. in the morning, and having to shower in the open. Like I used to say, we used to shower under the stars, at that hour of the morning. And at that young age, you'd have to be very fast to be able to take your things to the dormitories and be able to be ready for breakfast and ready for the day. However, at that young age, it meant that there are days I would be late, miss breakfast, and I would have to be beaten up just for being late and not having breakfast, and many other corporal punishments that some of you may identify with. So it was kind of a hard beginning for me, but looking back many years later, I tend to say that it's one of the best gifts that my parents gave me, because it's during those formative years that I began to kind of shape my character and my foundation. I learned to be tough. I learned to be, I call headstrong confidence for myself, self-discipline, having a thick skin, if I may use those words, and just courage, the courage to face things and to move on my own. I realized at that age, my parents had released me into the world to fight it up, to go for it myself. And so I had to show up and show up well, and I just say those really laid very good foundations for me. And I will speak into a bit of that as we move along. Maya Angelou, that most of you know, she's quite famous for having said many things, but this really stood out for me. And she said that courage is one of the key virtues that enables anyone to be able to consistently implement all other virtues in our lives. And so with that, when it comes to character, what does that really mean, a character? So there is the analogy of an iceberg. We've all seen an iceberg. When you see an iceberg, you see like the tip where it has the eyes, but you can't quite tell what is below that. So the tip of the iceberg is kind of what we see. It's the personality, what people see when they see you first. But when you go below the iceberg, that is where I would say the depth of who you are. It's your character. It's what people don't see. It's the values, it's the beliefs, and the things that defines you as a person, what you stand for. So with that said, it means that somebody of high character is one who has maturity, integrity, an abundant mentality. But somebody with competence is really somebody with the ability and the knowledge. So to be a great and effective leader, you must be able to strike a balance between the two. Because they say competence is what will take you up to the leadership scale, up there. But it's your character that will keep you there. So as a leader, it's the ability to be able to strike a balance of the two. And it's something that I have consistently tried to work on, in my leadership journey. And I will reflect on that as we move along. Maybe at this point, I'll just pose a question for us that will help us to reflect as we move along. And just ask, have you ever wondered why some of the leaders are drawn more, people are drawn more to some of the leaders than others? Why? What is that they exhibit? What is that makes people want to be associated with them? So let's stew over that as we move along, and then we'll come back to that. So back to my story of my childhood experiences. I was just reflecting on that, and I said some of my what I would consider my key building blocks for high character in leadership are many, but I decided to narrow down that to what I would call my five key building blocks for high character this far that I've come. The most important one for me, I know Irina said we will post the question. Jen, maybe you can post that question on the chat box, the question that I asked, just for people to reflect on that. So the question was, why are people drawn to certain leaders more than others? What is that sets them apart? And so back to my story, one of the key character traits, so my key building blocks for high character in leadership, the first one is self-discipline. From that very young age of 9 years, when I went to boarding school, this is one of, I would say, my key character traits that stands out for me to date. Because I think because of the ability to be able to just juggle things up at that very young age, I was able to develop this character trait of self-discipline, which has become a key component for me to be able to strike a right balance between my personal and my private life as a mother and even as a professional lady. Self-discipline has enabled me to delay gratification. Being able to say, I can hold on. I don't have to have it now. I can have it later. Self-control, being able to set boundaries for myself and say, for me to be able to get there, I need to deny myself certain things. That leadership is not a straight line, and there is no success without sacrifice. So just that discipline to be able to say that and to stay on that. But in the process of exercising self-discipline, enabled for me to be able to achieve what I want, that comes with a lot of challenges, I would say. And one of them is just, wondering whether I am good enough as I do that, the imposter syndrome, constantly questioning my ability to be able to actually make it, but still being able to say, I will stay on anyway, I will show up, irrespective of, what I feel like I'm not able to do. So one of the things that has enabled me to stick on with self-discipline is just learning what I say, to forgive myself, extending that grace to myself that I do to many other people, and saying, you know what, Joyce, it's fine. I can do it all over again. So one of the things that I've done over the years and try to do it every day is look at myself in the mirror every day. I say, hello, Joyce. It's fine. I can do it. I can start all over again. Because even in my leadership, there are times that my leadership is questioned. I don't know how many of you get to that point where, as you go up the leadership, some people don't think you deserve to be where you are. And, they can question that. But as a leader, being able to look straight up in the mirror and say, you know what, I can do it. I've come this far and I can still go that far. So just that self-discipline to be able to stay on. Allow me to just use one of the great women of our century, Michelle Obama. And she said, when they go low, you go high. When they go low, you go high. So just keeping it high all the way, irrespective, in spite of, if I would say. The other thing that has anchored by self-discipline is just realizing that there is power in early rising, waking up early. I consider myself belonging to the 5 a.m. club, being able to own my morning so that I may elevate my life. Because at that young age, I said we used to wake up at 5 and shower under the stars. And over the years, I have just learned to wake up early, because I realized the focus that I bring into my day determines the energy and the excitement. And how I order my day is how, I'm able to just cover a lot of ground. No wonder they say punctuality is the currency of royalty. People who are punctual have gone very far. People who wake up early, I'm sure you have a couple to name of people who wake up early, they go far, because it's in the morning that you own your life and you elevate your life at the same time. The second character trait that I've, developed over the years based on my leadership journey is just being able to stay focused. Because of self-discipline, then being able to stay focused, having the end in mind. What is that I want to achieve? Fixing my eyes on the prize, being able to consistently answer my why, consistently answer, why am I here? What am I doing? Even under pressure, getting up and doing the job. Yeah, being determined, being resilient in what I do. Initially, I talked about having a thick skin. Having a thick skin is saying, you know what, in spite of, I'm here anyway to do what I've got to do, getting to do the job. Learning to be, what I would say, doing everything in the season that I'm in, so that when that season is gone, I'm not left looking at the past or regretting that I should have done something differently, but just being present in the moment and constantly just realizing that my best for today is not enough for tomorrow. So keep pushing the bar, I would say. The story of Nelson Mandela, I think, continuously stands out for me, that exemplifies this character trait of staying focused. A few years ago, I was privileged to have traveled to South Africa, and I went to the Robben Island and actually managed to go to the cell that Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years. When you look at the circumstances under which he lived, it can only bring tears to your eyes, because it's smaller than his height, meaning that, you know, he had to get cramped up for some time while there. And I'm meant to understand that he was given all the goodies he could for him to bring down his political demands, but he stayed focused. He was true to his ambition. And it's the reason why South Africa was able to enjoy, you know, the freedom from apartheid. So just staying focused. I think for me, a couple of the people in this call know me to stay focused and to hang in there and to push on, you know, until I get what I want. So I think that's one character trait that I see shaping leadership, that has shaped my leadership, just being focused and staying consistent. They say the signature of excellence is consistency. If you want to be excellent in anything, it's staying consistent at it. But more so, putting in the hard work. For you to stay consistent, it means, you know, putting in the effort, trusting your struggles, and knowing that, you know, nothing comes on a silver plate. You have to sacrifice, you have to work hard, you have to be diligent in what you do. So just to mention that for me to be able to scale up in my leadership, it's meant that I had to work hard in terms of my education background, so to say, so that I may have the knowledge to be able to deliver as a leader. So all the way from, you know, the boarding school to where I am today, I pride myself in a couple of education successes that I've had. I currently pursuing my PhD in organizational leadership, and it's not come easy to get there, but it's hard work and just staying focused. And like I mentioned, I had to take up a leadership position in Ethiopia as a director. And that was not an easy decision because it meant losing sight of the known to be able to go into the unknown. They say if you want to experience new waters, you have to be ready to lose sight of the shore to be able to experience that. So it's come with what I would say is sacrifice, but also hard work just to make it and be where I am. John Maxwell puts it very well. He says, what you focus on expands. You know, when you focus on something, it keeps growing and even gets better. Initially, I mentioned about I'm an adventurous fitness enthusiast, so to say. So in that process, I hike, I cycle, I swim. So I try to explore a lot of things out there. That has taught me the power of resilience and just determination. I've been able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to the peak, Huru Peak, the highest. I've done Mount Kenya. I've done Mount Meru and a couple of Badea ranges here in Kenya and a couple of other hills. The reason why I bring out that story of hiking is because when you're a hiker, you cannot get to the peak unless you work hard, you're self-disciplined, and you stay focused. Those are key traits for a hiker. But as a leader, you cannot lead like you're hiking a mountain. The difference is when you're a leader, you stop being alone and you have to come along with people. And that takes me to my third character trait. What I've said, you move from being a soloist to a conductor. You cannot do it alone. You have to lead people. You know, a conductor brings everybody to do the beautiful music. So when you are a conductor, it means that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. that you cannot achieve everything by going it alone, you know. And so as a leader, when you're leading people, you cannot afford to be alone. I read somewhere and it said, leaders who say it's lonely at the top, it's because you've been hiking. When we do hike, we start together as a big team. We are usually like 30, 20 at the base, and we go hiking. So as we go up, it thins out. You begin to form smaller groups as you move up. And even as you head to the summit, it becomes a solo affair, so to say, everybody for themselves and God for us all situation, meaning that you are a hiker, you want to summit. But as a leader, what I've learned over the years is that you cannot do it alone. You cannot afford to be a hiker when you're a leader. And so I try to bring in my resilience and my determination of a hiker into my leadership, but I also remember that I'm not a hiker, but I'm a leader, that I need everybody. So I try to embrace what I would call a leadership dance. A leadership dance is where you are, when you're dancing, you're stepping ahead because you're a visionary leader, you carry the vision, but you also step aside because you want to hear what is going on. What are people saying? What do I need to know? But you also need to step back and give the people the push that they need to be able to get to where you want to go. So being able to embrace that leadership dance as a leader and not doing it alone. And that involves humility. It involves giving more than you receive. Being able to slow down so that you're able to bring others along the way. Because you don't want to find yourself at the summit and you're like, hey, where is everybody else? You want to go there, all of you. So the power of giving more than receiving, because you all know the principle of sowing and reaping. You cannot reap where you have not sowed. So you have to continuously sow into your team for them to be able to walk with you into the leadership that you want to go. And so for you to be able to conduct and to be able to lead everybody else, it means that you cannot be everything together. It's so outdated, where everybody thought you're everything, you're all put up together. No. And so for me, I've learned the power of maximizing on delegation. So this is where, I try to have a strong support system around me, both at home and even at my workplace. So having a social convoy, I would say my social convoy, the people who push me on. So at home, having a very, what I would call my house manager to help me manage my life back home, but also, having a very strong supportive family. My husband, very supportive, sounding board, somebody that I can go to ask for direction and just some clarity on things. But also at my workplace, I use my to-do list as my tool to delegate, but also to empower and to equip my team on how to be the best of themselves. So looking at my list and saying, who can do this other than me so that they can get better at what they do? So just being able to maximize on that power of delegation is really frees me up to be able to have space to think, to take in more information, and even to be a better leader in the process. My fourth character trait that I would like to say I've learned over the years is that you cannot give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So that means as a leader, I have to continuously reinvent myself. I have to continuously learn and relearn, and be a better version of myself, because with that, then I'm able to pour out onto other people. I'm able to guide, I'm able to direct. And so my fourth character trait is, I call it sharpen the soul. I have to continuously sharpen my soul. because if I'm not growing, I'm dying. So I need to grow. I like to reflect on the story of the eagle's famous flight of rebirth. I'm sure most of you know, but just allow me to dwell a bit on that because it really epitomizes the power of sharpening the saw. So the eagle has 70 years to live, but when it gets to 40 years, it has to make a decision whether to live or to die. So it has to change. So what it does is it has to fly to the highest mountain and sit on its nest for about 150 days. And during this time, it has to shed off its feathers and allow it to grow. Its talons have weakened, so it has to come out and grow. And its beak has also weakened, and it has to hit it on a hard rock and allow it to grow again. Once that's done after the 50 days, it has to do the famous flight and fly for it to be able to live another 30 years to make up for the 70 years of its lifespan. So you see, it is, I would say, a painful change process for the eagle, but it's one that's necessary for it to be able to soar. So it's the same thing for us. For us to be able to have that leadership ability, we must have the character to be able to sharpen our soul and get better and to reinvent ourselves. So every morning, one of the things that I do when I wake up is I try to ask myself, for this new day, what new thing am I going to learn? What new thing am I going to try? Something different. What am I going to try something different today? What new thing can I find? What better thing can I find today? What bigger thing can I see than I saw yesterday? Because it's only as high as I can reach, can I get, how deep I look, can I see, and how much I dream, can I be? Yeah. So those are some of the things that I reflect on in my leadership journey on a day-to-day basis. And we've seen a couple of people that we can identify with. Barack Obama, the president of America. And I know most of you have many examples, and even ourselves here. We know of great leaders who read, people who study, and are able to become better versions of themselves because they realize that you can only give as much as you have. The value that you put on yourself will determine how much you invest on yourself. So just being able to invest in yourself as a person so that you're able to pour out to others, I would say. So it's about being more of yourself, but more with skills. Yeah. How do you still remain yourself, but more with skills? It's only through, sharpening that soul. The fifth one, which I consider it one of my key character traits, is just finding my true north. What is my compass? What do I stand for? What is my purpose? What is my source of identity? And like I said at the very beginning, I'm a child of God. I say, I'm created in his likeness. I like the wisdom that comes from studying the word of God. And I will highlight just two that really anchor me, I would say, and anchor my character and my leadership. And one of them is that I'm God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared for me in advance. And secondly is that what shall it profit a man if he gains everything and loses his soul? So that's my true north. Yeah, my spirituality, what anchors me as a leader. So in conclusion, I'm sure there are many other elements that we could use to define the value of character in leadership. But what I've highlighted tonight is really what has shaped me. based on my experiences and based on my journey. These character traits have enabled me to grow as a leader. From my first job, believe it or not, some of you know here, I sold newspapers. I was a newspaper vendor. I even drove a Kenya bus service bus in my younger years, you know, as I was growing up as a management trainee, one of the companies, yeah. Many steps along the way in my leadership that I may not have time to expound on tonight, to this point where, you know, I'm a director of my organization, being able to be entrusted to manage millions of dollars for them. Yeah, these are the character traits that really have shaped me. As I finish, one thing that I wanted to bring to us and something that resonates with me is what Samuel Smiles said, that when you sow a thought, you reap an action. When you sow an action, you reap a habit. And when you sow a habit, you reap a character. And a character defines your destiny. So from tonight, I think one of the things that comes out strongly for me is that our character is so personal to us, but it's never private. Our character is a self-audit of who we are, our accountability to ourselves and the people that we lead. What I would say, the moral force that fuels your public life, you know, yeah, and determines what is the kind of legacy that you will leave behind as a person, as an individual, as a leader. What is that legacy that your character will leave behind, you know? So I would just like to say that as we climb the ladder of success, I think it's important for us to make sure that we always check whether our ladder is leaning on the right foundation of, you know, a strong character and integrity. I'm sure we are all in a journey of perfecting our leadership and especially our character in leadership. So let us go ahead and create the future that we want through our leadership. Let's not let life happen. Let's make it happen. And one of the greatest books of all time said, a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Thank you for listening to me. Yeah, back to you, Jen.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Thank you very, very much. It was going so smoothly, and I was listening so intently that I didn't want you to say thank you or even to conclude. I thought you'd go more further and further and further, but thank you so much for that sharing of your experience.
Thank you.
To me, that is so deep. It's like I really have to consume it little bit by bit until I really get the whole of it. I'd urge members, let's share. What have you learned most? What has spoken to you? What do you relate with? What do you admire? Or what have you been practicing? Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Joyce, for that very deep sharing. And I want to just echo two things: the issue of delegation and leadership. I think that is something that is very important as a leader. When you delegate, it means that you believe in your team, that they can take up the leadership of tomorrow. So if you don't delegate, it means that your succession planning is questionable. But when you delegate, it means that you want to build the people in the lower cadre to take up leadership of tomorrow. So it is a key element in leadership that we delegate. So I think that is what I'm taking home today, the issue of delegation and consistency, doing it over and over again. And when you do it over and over again, it means that you are perfecting it minute after minute. So as a leader, we need to be consistent in what we are doing. Do it today, do it tomorrow, do it the next day, and it gets better. Thank you very much, Joyce, for that.
Thank you so much, Susan. Someone else to make a contribution?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, James Karibo.
Thank you for that very clear and very inspiring think through around the character in leadership. I think it's really profound. I think that the two things that I'm picking up from this conversation. One, I think what excited me was the conductor. A leader is a conductor of an orchestra. I mean, and the leader need not be the drummist or the saxophonist or the guitarist or the violinist. But I think the leader is about harnessing the abilities of the team to be able to succeed as a team. And I think that for me was very profound in terms of what is one of the key things that leaders need to espouse, even as we engage with the various teams. And the other one was around sharpening the saw. And I think we all recall, I think there's a saying that goes, you take 7 hours to sharpen the saw so that you only spend 1 hour to cut down the tree. I don't promote cutting trees, but I just for purposes of discussion, rather than sharpening the saw for 1 hour and taking 7 hours to cut down the tree. So I think it's an issue to do with sharpening the abilities that you have as an individual, but also as a team that you lead, because leadership is really about leading others to a common result. And I think that was two things that were actually very profound. And the other day I was listening to a talk around the keeping the fire burning. And all know that about fire, that when you are burning something, ashes, the result of that is an ash. And if you don't remove the ash from the fire, you will have the fire getting out. So I think we are all in the business of ensuring that even that which we have utilized to grow and get to the next level in terms of our leadership, we should care enough to actually remove the ash. We should care enough not to look at the past, but looking at where we are going. There are new challenges out there for leaders. There are new dynamics that we need to invest in. Rather than focus on the ashes, we need to focus on how do we keep the fire burning? How do we get to the next level? So I think for me, I think this has been a profound conversation. And I think I'm taking more than I bargained for coming into this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you for elaboration and really expounding on your takeaways. Thank you. Yes, members, we still got some time. You want to make a contribution? Yes, please. Someone is carrying up the hand. This.
Good evening, Jane, and everyone else.
Yes.
Thank you, Joyce, for your presentation. Very touching. because it was very personal. But my takeaway is on how you dramatize the hiker and leadership. Did you say leadership is a dance? The current leaders where we are soloists. They dance alone. And they make sure they dance alone all the way to 60 years, so that when they retire, they say, there's no one else. Please add for me this. Have you seen people whose retirement age come and they refuse to go because they have not danced with anybody? I mean, you explained it so very well, that you step aside, dance with somebody else and walk them back, dance ahead and give the vision, and then dance back and push people. That was so very clear to me. I also want to appreciate that you are vulnerable with your life. That this director, you say director of awards and partnership, such a big title, was once in a boarding school showering under the stars. I wish this message today you should tell it to the current. There is a price you have to pay. Did you say you're also doing your PhD? You know, that journey speaks of everything that you have taken us through today. It is, you have not cooked it. You have not punched a key and you just happened. You have your life speaks about discipline, staying focused. You know, everything that you have told us, your life is a testimony to it. And we want to thank you for that talk. I have enjoyed it myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irene. Thank you very much. Yes, James has written something there. In your leadership journey, how do you manage the challenges? How do you address situations or people who pull you down? I believe that is a question to our guest speaker today, Madam Joyce.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. So before I answer that, I think Dr. Evelyn's hand has been up. So maybe you didn't see
Oh,
that.
it's Evelyn.
Yeah.
Yes, Evelyn,
Can
please. So
allow
sorry.
her, then I can answer that one.
Dr. Evelyn.
Yes. Thank you. I think my hand has actually been up for quite some time. Most of the things I wanted to say have actually been picked out. But mine is to really appreciate Joyce for that selfless way of bringing out so close to the heart, so that when you're talking about it, we not only feel that we are learning something new, but we are feeling like we're learning from experience. We almost feel like you're experiencing your life. So thank you for sharing yourself that much. We have learned quite a lot. I think what touches me a lot, which has not been touched for now, is the issue of self-discipline. In fact, what I normally call it is self-leadership. Before you start leading others, you must lead yourself. The issue of rising up early, trying to do things, delaying gratifications, all those things. Before you become a leader for others, you must know how to lead yourself. So I believe that aspect of saying you're taken to boarding school and you realize there was no mommy, there was no daddy somewhere, and you started leading yourself, actually was the basis of that. But keeping it on and staying on track, knowing that I was waking up at 5 a.m. is something that I need to carry on throughout in order for me to succeed, actually speaks quite a lot. So I think the way you brought out the issue of character, quite big for me. And there's something that I think really works for me. When you ask that question of why are some people more drawn to leaders? I don't know whether that question was ever answered, because the issue of humility, most leaders get it wrong. When they are made leaders, they assume everybody else does not know, and therefore they're the only people who know much. But when you're humble with your leadership, then you realize that it's quite easy. Some of the things that people bring to your table, you get even shocked that such a person could have such ideas. So humility and realizing that everyone has potential and that you can be able to put all those things together and come up with even a great way of doing things is also much for sharing. There's so much I've learned, and I really want to appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Evelyn. I'm so sorry I could not see your hand. And there is another hand that is Joyce appreciating. All right, all right. I think that was someone appreciating. Thank you so much, all those who have made contributions. We still have maybe 2 minutes before I make my contribution as well. Just 2 minutes, maybe the last person.
So maybe Jen, I can respond a bit to James's question meanwhile, if that's okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, so James is asking, in your leadership journey, how do you manage the challenges? How do you address situations of people who pull you down? Yeah. So I think, like I mentioned before, once you know yourself, who you are and what you stand for, and just anchoring on what Dr. Evelyn just said, that you're humble enough to even say, I don't know. You know, you're a leader, but you're ready to say, I don't know, I want to learn, or can we learn together? Or how can we solve this together? I think that in itself puts you in a place where people feel that you're not in ivory tower alone, but you're ready to just learn from everybody and find solutions that are workable for both of you. I think the other thing is that just like I said, waking up every morning and telling yourself, hello, Joyce, it's a new day with new things, with new beginnings. You can do it all over again. And just believing that there is no failing, that there are no mistakes in life, but that every mistake is an opportunity to learn and to get better. I think those are some of the things that I have learned. And also to just know that keeping the big picture in view without losing and getting lost in the small details. Having the big picture, that I may not have made it today, but I'm still pushing on to where I want to go. So I think that's a bit of what I can add on to that. Yeah. So maybe, Jen, we can allow 1 or 2 people to just reflect on the question that I asked, which Dr. Evelyn has already kind of answered it, is why are people drawn to certain leaders and not others? What are those things that those people possess? Yeah. So maybe 1 or 2 people from the audience can give us their thoughts, and then Jen, I think you can wrap it up. Yeah.
all right. Yes. Why are people more drawn, or why would you be more drawn to a certain leader than and not others? What would draw you to a certain leader? Maybe to Jane or to Joyce, or to your best leader than others. What is it? If I may contribute to that, Joyce.
Yeah.
I've always admired great leaders or people. I'm from the public sector, the civil service, and I've seen maybe certain permanent secretaries or cabinet secretaries are so humble. People in high places are so humble. And I've always considered, for us in the civil service, after every election, we see quite a number. They come in with all the hype and they want this, and this. And you wonder, hey, what is this? And maybe even some of the talks, how they express themselves, you leave a lot to admire. Yet others are similarly in certain positions, such positions, and they're so humble. They can talk to you with so much grace, so much humility. And I find myself maybe giving more time, listening, trying to understand what is unique about this leader. Why does he take his time to do this and that and not the other? So more humble people, I tend to appreciate them.
Good. Thank you, Jen. Humility. Humility. And I think Dr. Evelyn also mentioned that, yeah, just being humble. Yeah. Good. So
I think for me, and I know I was beginning to type who those leaders are. I think for me, I'll be looking for leaders who inspire me to be successful in what I do. And not so much about him or her as a leader, but it's about the fact that you appreciate that there's a team that, that there are people you're leading, and that you're able to harness the abilities and grow those abilities of those individuals that you lead. And I think that the most important thing for me, I mean, just to build onto that, is that a leader who recognizes me as a leader in what I do, and therefore that leadership, the success of a team that you're leading, is a summation of the leadership that we all bring to the table. So for me, I would be looking for a leader who appreciates and can grow me to be the best that I can be in what I do. But that also means that a leader who actually can actually say point blank that you are fallen, but you can rise. A leader who would be open enough, and I know we all have leaders who would actually sometimes go around our backs to actually speak about you, instead of actually facing and actually saying, here, you made a mistake, but you have an opportunity to grow and learn from that mistake. I remember one of my leaders at some point, in one of the organizations that I've worked in, and you would actually tell me, okay, fine, we have all agreed about what we need to achieve for this year. Do what it takes to get those results, right? But if you fail along the way, please consider it as learning, and therefore he would give us that space to innovate. He would give us that, knowing very well that you have a supportive leader. And that's why I was actually talking about the fact that leaders who inspire one or inspire us to be the best that we can be. But in between there, you have learning, you have innovation, you are falling, you're waking up and being able to get the best that you can get out of yourself. Over.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution. We truly appreciate it. All right, we've got just maybe 2 minutes to go, and just to recap, I think what I got from myself of Joyce's presentation, which has really been very insightful to me, is self-discipline, and these are the building blocks for high character that has kept her, that has brought her to this extent that she is. Self-discipline and staying focused, being the a leader and not a hiker. I wrote it as being a leader and not a hiker, and learning and relearning. That is sharpening the soul and finding her true north. These are traits of leaders that I believe we've had them over and over. And what I appreciate in this forum is that these are experiences. These are things that we've experienced. Joyce has simply given us her experience in life. Through these sessions, I've learned that there is so much that we encounter throughout our lives. Up to this level, you've gone through so much. And all these things have been, these experiences, the events, the people you've met in your life, I normally call them highlighters. Just like the highlighter pen. I always have this in my table, in my purse. Anywhere you get me, I will have an highlighter. And while I use this for the book, there are these experiences that I count to be so meaningful to me in my life. And what we do in Reflections That Inspire is that this is a story that we've had. How would I get this experience to be? How could I embrace this in my life? Reflections That Inspire, we discuss that when you take your time, you sit back, you reconsider, you reflect on what you have heard today. then that reflection allows that lesson that we've gotten today to catch up with you. There are events in life that, unless you sit down and really ponder over, they just pass by. There are people you've met in your life that, unless you sit down and reconsider your conversation, you remember that you met such and such a person. It would just pass like that. And for a leader's life, the issues of discipline, we could be heading for a goal, maybe half the year. But because we've never sat back to reconsider our steps, the discipline, how consistent are we? How do we practice this? Maybe you were set off by a challenge early, maybe in February, and this was your goal in June. And you've never sat back, you've never even remembered that you had maybe certain steps, certain practices that you had to go through to establish that discipline and to practice over. It just went off. You don't even remember the goal now. But what keeps you being at the top is that discipline. So at Reflections that Inspire, our encouragement, which is an inspiration to us, is that give it a pause. Hit the blue button. Have some quiet time daily. Have a place and a time of practice where you sit down to reflect on your goals, to reflect on the stage of life where you are, to reflect on the points that we've learned today. To remain focused, you must have that goal in front of you. You must see it every day. And it's not seeing it every day as a routine, but with lessons. When you reflect, there are those new ideas that come to us. There are those questions that we ask. No one needs to answer them to you, but when you are quiet, the answer pops in. We've got being a hiker, being a leader, not a hiker. Joyce, that was really profound. It came out really with a bang, I believe, to many of us. And I like the way James has really added a lot to it, and Dr. Evelyn also added to it. And James really highlighted that he'd like to see that leader who really appreciates, who is open, who can correct him with the care, who can be open in communication and humble. And I don't know whether it's Susan who also talked about delegation. As a leader, I learned that a leader, you stay at a position where you see so much ahead, and therefore it gives you the chance also to act ahead of others, because you have that power ahead of others. You are in the position ahead of others. You've got all the resources ahead of others, and therefore you can do so much. And therefore you can also choose to go alone, the way Irene mentioned. You could be running the race all alone, and then you find yourself at the finish line. Then you wonder, hey, where are the others? And if you are alone, it will be lonely. And if you are alone, you'll wonder who is to take over. And you find yourself to be the only sole person who is prepared for that position. That means simply you're alone, because you cannot never stay in a position forever. And what is the role of a leader? What positions you to be a leader? Unless you've got followers, you are not a leader. You are not leading anyone. And therefore, in that case, maybe you are just the end of yourself. And even sharpening the saw came in very, very hard and very powerful on us. What do you do? Or what do we have? The question here is, what do I have to shave off for me now? What is either blunt in my leadership currently? What would I do to sharpen it? What do I need to shed off? What is it? A character? Is it a behavior? Is it something that is not sharp or draining me down? Those are the reflections that we got to embrace currently. And sense of purpose, the most powerful one. I'm happy you concluded with this. Unless we've got that direction, we are not heading anywhere. Unless you've got your sense of purpose. From the beginning, I read a quote by Marshall Goldsmith that said that we are here in this world to make a difference. We are in this world to make a difference and not to be right. There are many people who argue, or there are many leaders who want to be right, who want to have the final say, who want to be the only people seen. It's a sense of insecurity. But our main and sole purpose is to make a difference in people's lives. So my encouragement and my inspiration to all of us today is, let us embrace these qualities of leader. Let us embrace these and develop our character in ways that is going to help us to make a difference. Let's do that through reflections. Take your time, have a place to sit down daily, to think about, to reflect, to observe, to analyze, to use any other tool that you can manage to have in order to get the meaning of what is this, to get how this applies in your life and how you can carry this forward. And with that, members, I truly appreciate all of you. I truly appreciate you for taking your time to be with us. Thank you. We meet every month, twice, the first Saturday of the month and the third Saturday. This month, I can see there are several, the months are so many. So we still have one more week. We will meet again on the 29th of April. So Joyce, before I close, I would invite you to say something before we close.
All right. So Jen, without watering down your very, very good conclusion there, I think for me, it's just to say a very big thank you for everyone who created time this evening to just listen to me and to learn. Just to reiterate and say that whatever is not growing is dying. So let's go out of here and aim to grow, to become the better version of ourselves and for others. And that means losing ourselves. When we lose ourselves, then we allow others to grow and to be a better version of who they are. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.